Day 321, Friday, December 22nd. 1 Chronicles 22 and Proverbs 4 1-9. 1 Chronicles 22 1-19 NKJV. Then David said, "This is the house of the Lord God, and this is the altar of burnt offering for Israel." So David commanded to gather the aliens who were in the land of Israel, and he appointed masons to cut hewn stones to build the house of God. And David prepared iron in abundance for the nails of the doors of the gates and for the joints, and bronze in abundance beyond measure, and cedar trees in abundance. For the Sidonians and those from Tyre brought much cedar wood to David. Now David said, "Solomon my son is young and inexperienced, and the house to be built for the Lord must be exceedingly magnificent, famous and glorious throughout all countries. I will now make preparation for it." So David made abundant preparations before his death. Then he called for his son Solomon, and charged him to build a house for the Lord God of Israel. And David said to Solomon, "My son, as for me, it was in my mind to build a house to the name of the Lord my God, but the word of the Lord came to me, saying, You have shed much blood and have made great wars. You shall not build a house for my name, because you have shed much blood on the earth in my sight. Behold, a son shall be born to you, who shall be a man of rest, and I will give him rest from all his enemies all around. His name shall be Solomon, for I will give peace and quietness to Israel in his days. He shall build a house for my name, and he shall be my son, and I will be his father, and I will establish the throne of his kingdom over Israel forever. Now, my son, may the Lord be with you, and may you prosper, and build the house of the Lord your God, as he has said to you. Only may the Lord give you wisdom and understanding, and give you charge concerning Israel, that you may keep the law of the Lord your God. Then you will prosper, if you take care to fulfill the statutes and judgments with which the Lord charged Moses concerning Israel. Be strong and of good courage, do not fear nor be dismayed. Indeed, I have taken much trouble to prepare for the house of the Lord 100,000 talents of gold and 1,000,000 talents of silver, and bronze and iron beyond measure, for it is so abundant. I have prepared timber and stone also, and you may add to them. Moreover, there are workmen with you in abundance, woodsmen and stonecutters, and all types of skillful men for every kind of work. Of gold and silver and bronze and iron there is no limit. Arise and begin working, and the Lord be with you. David also commanded all the leaders of Israel to help Solomon his son, saying, Is not the Lord your God with you? And has he not given you rest on every side? For he has given the inhabitants of the land into my hand, and the land is subdued before the Lord and before his people. Now set your heart and your soul to seek the Lord your God. Therefore arise and build the sanctuary of the Lord God, to bring the ark of the covenant of the Lord and the holy articles of God into the house that is to be built for the name of the Lord. Proverbs 4 1-9 NKJV. Hear, my children, the instruction of a father, and give attention to know understanding. For I give you good doctrine. Do not forsake my law. When I was my father's son, tender and the only one in the sight of my mother, he also taught me, and said to me, Let your heart retain my words, keep my commands, and live. Get wisdom, get understanding. Do not forget, nor turn away from the words of my mouth. Do not forsake her, and she will preserve you. Love her, and she will keep you. Wisdom is the principal thing, therefore get wisdom. And in all your getting, get understanding. Exalt her, and she will promote you. She will bring you honor, when you embrace her. She will place on your head an ornament of grace, a crown of glory she will deliver to you. Daily Deep Dive. The UCG reading program states, the threshing floor David purchases from Ornan the Jebusite eventually becomes the site of the temple Solomon builds. How did David know to choose that site for the temple? In our last reading, We were informed that this is where God directed that a new altar be built, 1 Chronicles 21:18, one that he miraculously sanctioned by fire from heaven, verse 26. The passage in 1 Chronicles 22:1 sounds like a light suddenly came on in David's mind as he mentally connected the dots. By the miraculous sign of fire from heaven, and perhaps other intimations, David understood it to be the will of God that the national place of worship should be fixed there, and he forthwith proceeded to make preparations for the erection of the temple on that spot. Jameson, Fawcett, and Brown Commentary, note on verse 1. This is to be the house because this is the altar. The temple was built for the sake of the altar. Matthew Henry's Commentary, note on verse 1. It is interesting to consider the fact that the site was a threshing floor, where chaff was separated from grain. Speaking of Jesus Christ, John the Baptist said, "His winnowing fan is in his hand, and he will thoroughly clean out his threshing floor, and gather the wheat into his barn, but the chaff he will burn with unquenchable fire." Luke 3:17. Although David is not allowed to build the temple himself, 1 Chronicles 22:8, he has not been prevented from conducting preparations for it, and these he carries out thoroughly and abundantly. Verse 5. David instructs Solomon on what to do regarding this temple, points out his need for wisdom, which Solomon remembers at a critical point, 2 Chronicles 1:7-10, and admonishes him to obey God, instruction he will not continue to do so well with over the course of his life. David also makes it quite clear that Solomon is to be the next king. He recounts God's original promise concerning Solomon in 1 Chronicles 22:9-10. These verses are dual in application, referring to both Solomon and the future Messiah. Solomon's name means peaceful, and note that God specifically and specially calls him my son. Solomon's mostly peaceful reign is a definite type of the coming peaceful reign on earth of David's descendant Jesus Christ, the ultimate Prince of Peace and Son of God, who is commissioned by God the Father to build a spiritual temple, the church. In Proverbs 4:1-9, we find Solomon passing David's instructions about obedience and the pursuit of wisdom and understanding on to his own children. In this passage, we have words of David recorded outside his Psalms or the accounts of his life. And they are words we would all do well to heed. And I don't have anything to add to this day's readings.